Changing Expectations. Written by Kiki Slider. Chapter 5. Skull and Monogarmer. That night, I learned how changelings defecate. To be specific, I learned that they don't. Instead, they regurgitate a sort of slime. Big Bug Mom gathered the waste and threw it into one of the empty pots.
The changeling digestive system rids itself of the waste from processing love by congealing it into a thick mucus, then rids itself of the slime. We use the slime in a myriad of ways, from construction to being the basic component of a self-repairing salve. The changeling gel is our most abundant material.
That's what explained the warp's looking walls, columns, and ceilings. They are made of bug slime. Considering concrete is one of the most consumed resources in human society, I find it hilarious, disgusting, and most of all impressive that one of the most used resources in changeling society is bug vomit. Changeling anatomy lessons with Chrysalis continued into the night. She told me we could change our form at will, using magic inherent to changelings themselves. No other species had such an innate master over shapeshifting. That's another thing. Magic. It was very real, and it was how Chrysalis, Sokid, and Leviceris could levitate objects. It also unsurprisingly had countless other uses, from popping popcorn to transmutation of elements. I wonder if this means it's possible to split atoms using magic. That's wrapped up the impromptu nightly lessons from Bug Mom. She told me to get used to the study, as it would be my room until one of the spare rooms could be prepared for me. The other larvae of my generation had to sleep in a pile on the floor of a cavern, while I got a room to myself. I could get used to this. With Prince Phasma asleep on the couch of the study, Queen Chrysalis made her way to her bedroom. Tomorrow, before the prince awoke in the afternoon, she would check the archives. For now, she retired to her chambers. The bleak changeling gel walls stood in stark contrast to the room's contents. They were the pinnacle of luxury in the changeling hive. An actual bed, complete with 2 pillows, a few blankets, and a mattress. She had to hand it to the ponies. They know how to live comfortably. There were also 3 wooden chairs around a low table. A chest was set on the table, though Chrysalis never played. No windows. She would not tolerate such a security risk in her own personal wing, just as her predecessors never did. The pony princesses were fools to leave such vulnerabilities in their castles. Ponies. Right. Chrysalis trotted over to the table and picked up the Black Queen using levitation. She started to giggle, then moved on to a full-blown cackle. The thin layer of dust was quickly brushed off as the piece jiggled in her grasp.
Centuries of...
Chrysalis looked at her door. However, no guard knocked, bringing news of supply shortages, of strange happenstances, or of the latest issue of Coat Cloak magazine being released. Her monologues were interrupted more often than not, and it was starting to get on her nerves.
Of planning, and the Great Weaver grants me such a boon, and the fact that Prince Phasma is blessed with being such a prodigy? The signs are clear. The sun shall set upon the eternal sun, princess. How many centuries have we toiled in the dark? It is finally time for our place in the sun. Prince Phasmatodea shall deliver the final blow to the oh-so-glorious EUP. And city by city, Equestria will fall. My most loyal son, you shall be the key to delivering me Celeste's head on a silver platter. Together, we will bring in a new era for our kind. No more hiding in the shadows. No more food shortages. No more suffering. Well, for my changelings, that is. Dear Celestia and her little pony shall wish they were granted the mercy of death. Soon she will feel that her nightmares are real. Yes, step aside, Celestia. The age of ponies has ended. The age of changelings has begun.
Queen Chrysalis hummed quietly to herself as she headed down to the archives the next morning. Getting to the lowest layer of the hive was far easier than getting to the top spire yesterday. Without Phasma on her back, she could use her wings in the vertical shafts that formed the arteries of the hive. Changelings moved out of her way and clung to the walls. The oncoming traffic parted as she made her way all the way down, past the dormitories, the nursery, the storage rooms, until she reached the final layer. At the bottom of the shaft, just above the grate leading to the underhive, there was one exit. That exit led to one hallway, which led to one room with one final door. This final door was more akin to a wall that moved. It was thicker than many of the walls that made up the hive. A giant circular vault door, twisting inwards in a spiral, converging to a circle that held a picture of a blue scorpion. Just below the central circle was two holes, equally distant from the center. Chrysalis paid the two royal guards stationed on either side no heed as she slotted her forelegs into the circles. As her hooves pressed against the end of the recesses, tumblers slotted themselves through the holes of her legs. She turned her left leg clockwise 90 degrees, her right counterclockwise 45, then her left counterclockwise 135. Finally, she turned her right leg 90 degrees. There was a loud click, and the tumblers retracted. She never got the combination wrong, not after accidentally getting it wrong once, and having to sit there as the royal guards attempted to get her unstuck when the magical tumblers locked into place. The alarm blaring just added to the indignation. The vault door started to swing outwards, and Chrysalis pulled it out all the way with her magic.
In the dark of the night, evil will find her.
She quietly sang to herself as she stepped through. Proximity runes triggered the activation of the white light orbs on the walls, revealing the massive room. Rows of bookshelves extending out to 100 feet and 50 feet to each side.
In the dark of the night, terror comes true.
Chrysalis trotted to just to the side where the index lay. Finding the section she wanted, she pranced off to row 15, section 3, shelf 1. There were the journals of King Mesopleuron, Queen Cantharidae, Queen Maxilia, and Queen Specidae. She pulled them out and brought them to the table that was in the center of the room. Chrysalis pulled out the one chair at the table and continued to sing to herself as she read through the entries. Outside, the royal guards glanced at each other. Despite the rigorous training they endured, ensuring they remained vigilant and reserved at all times, their stoic poise was broken. Queen Chrysalis was singing. Royal Guard Hydro made a quiet prayer to the Great Weaver. Changing Expectations, written by KK Slider. Chapter 6, Chiron. Checking the journals had yielded no new additional information. As far as Chrysalis could tell, this was a first. None of her offspring, nor any from previous rulers, had been fully sapient from hatching. Every single prince and princess only began talking, and indeed cognitive functions greater than feed and regurgitate, at the nymph stage of their lives. Chrysalis herself couldn't recall any memories from when she was a larva, all those centuries ago. As she made her way back to her chambers, she considered the situation she found herself in. Since he was capable of learning now, she would teach him herself as well as feed him. Forming a close bond between them was, as she learned in the past, key. These early weeks would be crucial for everything to go smoothly. I awoke to Chrysalis looming over me on the couch. I wanted to ask if she stared at me throughout the entire night, but I had not figured out how to communicate my own sentences through the weave. I was still limited to repeating information.
Your lessons begin now.
What happened next would become routine for the next 3 weeks. After waking me up, Queen Chrysalis fed me some of her personal stores of love. I later learned that this was extremely spoiling. The hive often suffered shortages of love, and all changelings except Chrysalis consumed diluted love. The pure love diet Mom had me on would accelerate my growth, apparently. I wasn't a pediatrician, and neither was Bug Mom, but with a distinct lack of CPS, Changeling Protective Services, there was no one to oversee my health except Mother Dearest. Good thing she had literal centuries of being in charge of the health of the young. After feeding me the equivalent of a 12-course meal, Chrysalis would begin the lessons. For hours, until what I had guessed was mid-afternoon, she would drill concepts into my mind through speaking in the weave. From mathematics, which I excelled at, to the history of changelings, which I did not excel at. Strangely enough, my life as a human did not give me a head start on memorizing a list of dead shapeshifting emotivore monarchs. Queen Canthari established the modern system of love harvesting. Queen Specie rebuilt the main high spire after a legendary massive sandstorm tore away most of the outer layers of the hive. Queen Chrysalis presided over the greatest, longest-running, near-starvation ration distribution system. That I inferred from that context. Her actual lessons regarding herself were limited to the 50 reasons why Queen Chrysalis is awesome and why you owe your life to her variety. Not that I didn't pay lip service to the literal overlord of my new existence. I wasn't that stupid. Changelings were not doing very well at the moment. Due to reasons Her Majesty couldn't figure out, we were running out of food. Or rather, we ran out of food and are barely floating by with the current harvest of love coming from Equestria. Chrysalis briefly covered the changeling biology. Changelings subsided on magic and were optional omnivores. Eating other things could give us some sustenance, but it did not do more than stave off the side effects of starvation for a time. Emotions such as friendship, love, and sympathy were delicious. Emotions such as fear, anxiety, and anger tasted good and could be consumed like a fine wine. But, like wine, they were not suitable for living on. We also had 3 stages of life: larva, nymph, adult drone. Changeling royalty cast members did not age, as it turned out. The lack of ability to ask original questions had caused me to shelve certain topics for later, such as why we didn't try new methods of gaining food, or if Queen Chrysalis is nearly a millennia old. Where are my siblings? If all changeling royalty did not age, how come I was the only prince I had seen so far? The lessons moved on to the world at large. Griffinstone, the land of griffins, a shadow of its former self. Apparently, a string of weak kings brought it straight down into the gutters. Never heard of that one before. The Emberlands, the land of dragons. A complete, decentralized, near-tribal nation. A land where might makes right, where internal feuds meant the entire place was a conflict-strewn hellhole. The only fact that it still stands and hasn't been completely conquered is because, dragons. Then there was our neighbor, Equestria, a massive continent-spanning principality, or rather princess-pality, as it was ruled by an immortal Princess Celestia. Equestria was home to the ponies, Earth, Pegasine unicorns. The ruler was a special case, a member of all three species at the same time. She was the big boogeyman to the changelings, and I think maybe Chrysalis doesn't like her. It was at some point during the first 37-minute rant about Princess Celestia that I got the feeling that there was no lost love between them. Love. Still, if Princess Celestia hated changelings, it would probably be best to guess that she would not take kindly to my continued existence. Equestria was also our number one and only source of food, love. Changeling infiltrators siphoned it off of unsuspecting ponies. This meant that everything combat and infiltration related was targeted towards the ponies, and advancing security and communication measures meant that our one source of sustenance was in danger. As it turns out, being a hyper-evolved species dedicated to one specific source of food meant that when our environment changed, we were in mortal danger. Wow, this is my shocked face. Princess Celestia was also reported to be responsible for the movement of the celestial bodies. With a name like that and an immortal lifespan, I chalked this up to a cult of personality spreading misinformation. The Changeling Hive was located roughly close to the center of the dry region known as the Badlands. To our north was the Duchy of Appaloosa, ruled by Marquess Deeppockets, part of the totally not a kingdom of Equestria. To our south, east, and west was Jungle, ruled by the grand and majestic Count No One, who owes fealty to King Nobody. Geography lessons turned into physics and thaumaturgy. That got me excited. No, not learning the changeling equivalent to Isaac Newton. Spells, magic, the ability to change the fabric of reality to fit your wishes. Chrysalis stuck to the basics first, the concepts of mana, ley lines, the law of equivalent exchange. Have I heard that before? And the structure of spells. They were formulas, and more closer to chemical formulas than math formulas. It boiled down to channeling magic while envisioning concepts and their complex relationships with each other, the strings of the great tapestry. But I wasn't to learn how to cast yet. Casting would have to wait until my nymph stage. Finally, language lessons. I learned how to speak and write Equish, as it was the lingua franca of this world. I was also being taught how to speak on my own in the Weave, but that was a difficult concept to grasp. Still, finally being able to communicate was useful. Once I started to get a good enough grasp on the language, the lessons slowly switched to verbal. Then after all lessons were over, she would feed me once again, and then I went to sleep. There were often quizzes and tests, all verbal for the same reason there was no homework. Paper was a valued commodity, and thus strictly used for the running of the hive. Even Queen Chrysalis, ruler of all the upholstery in the hive, obeyed this rule. Every day, for weeks, an error had to be corrected immediately. Any failed test retaken, and I
Had better get it right this time, dear prince.
Slowly but surely, I was starting to become the target of her more aggressive side. I never saw hair, nor hide, nor chitin of either Sokid or Lethoceros again. I had assumed they would watch over me when Chrysalis did her day job of being an overbearing ruler, But that never came to be. I don't think I ever saw any other changelings, apart from a royal guard occasionally interrupting to give Queen Chrysalis some important bit of news, causing her to put a lesson on hold to go deal with some going-ons in the hive. Her constant attention also meant that I couldn't explore this wing, or even this room very much. The one time I tried doing something, that being pulling a book off the lowest shelf with my left hoof when she was out of the room, Chrysalis returned and put the book away back using her magic, and told me not to mess around. I had only just made out the title, Thermodynamics and Thaumaturgy by Star Swirl. Then came the second strangest day of my new life.
High-level casting spells, such as teleportation and transmutation, are seldom mastered by any unicorn. And forget changeling drones. They haven't the chance at grasping the higher concepts of thaumaturgy.
Queen Chrysalis was accentuating the magic lessons with knowledge from the weave to better teach Phasma Equish. After all, it was far more efficient for her little prince to learn two subjects at the same time. Phasma was nodding slowly, very slowly.
Prince Phasma, you'd better be with me right now.
Chrysalis sternly chided, and Phasma's head shot up.
Yes, Mom.
There was that annoying childish accent again. Chrysalis suspected it was due to the still developing vocal cords and teeth. The fact that the larva could speak at all was a windfall she intended to make as much use of as possible. But that did not excuse a lack of diligence.
Yes, Mom.
Chrysalis corrected.
Now, the teleportation spell. As a prince, you'll be expected to know this one. The core concept is the string of location.
Phasma was nodding off again.
Prince Phasmatodea.
That got his attention.
If you continue to try to sleep through these lessons I am so generously giving you, then I will put you to work scrubbing my study clean. And I don't care if you don't have levitation yet. This room will be spotless.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom.
For 3 weeks, Chrysalis had...
Wait, 3 weeks? Could it be time already? Very well. Since you have been working hard, I will give you this day off.
Chrysalis smiled. Either Prince Phasma was about to start his transition phase, or the day off would further endear him to Chrysalis. A win-win scenario for her. Chrysalis then left the room, closed the door behind her, and waited.